Why should you care about mastering the art of public speaking? Consider the transformative impact of iconic figures like Barack Obama, John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr., Ronald Reagan, and Winston Churchill, individuals who, despite differing political affiliations, shared a common trait: extraordinary proficiency in communication. The prevailing belief that effective speaking is an innate gift or an unattainable skill is dispelled in this context. Contrary to the notion that eloquence is a genetic endowment, the truth is that the ability to speak persuasively is a learned skill within everyone's reach. Successful speakers, those who leave an indelible mark on history, grasp a fundamental principle. They convey their messages in alignment with the way humans naturally process information. In essence, their mastery lies in understanding a handful of cognitive biases that influence how we absorb information and subsequently act upon it. This blink delves into 5 of the 9 biases explored by Peter Andre in How Highly Effective People Speak: the availability bias, the contrast effect, the zero-risk bias, the halo effect, and attribute substitution. Each cognitive bias will be thoroughly defined and deconstructed, offering insights into their practical implications for enhancing your charisma and making your message more compelling. Real-life examples, devoid of political biases, will be cited to illustrate how these biases have been harnessed throughout history with significant impact. While full mastery of cognitive biases promises the most substantial dividends, even proficiency in wielding just one can set you apart as a speaker and elevate your effectiveness. Consider 2 individuals posed with the question, how likely are shark attacks? Their responses diverge based on the readily available information in their minds. The first person recalls a traumatic incident reported in the news and asserts, very likely. In contrast, the second person, lacking such vivid recollections, replies, not at all. Despite the objective statistics supporting one viewpoint, both individuals subjectively believe their memories guide them accurately. This cognitive phenomenon is known as the availability bias. The availability bias manifests as an inclination to assign greater importance to easily retrievable information. Even if people have encountered an objective statistic, its impact is diminished if it cannot be swiftly recalled. Instead, our minds gravitate toward a single, often vivid or compelling anecdote. What implications does the availability bias have for effective communication? To leverage the power of the availability bias, make your message memorable. While supporting facts are beneficial, their influence is maximized when they can be readily retrieved from the audience's mental archives. An effective approach involves packaging information as visually engaging and emotionally stirring stories. When constructing narratives, prioritize key elements such as characters and drama. Framing your communication around a protagonist, good guy, versus an antagonist, bad guy, can enhance comprehension, as people naturally grasp and imagine this dynamic. Emphasize the inherent conflict in your message whenever possible. Aristotle recognized the emotional charge of a message, known as pathos, as one of the 3 essential components of effective rhetoric. Returning to the shark attack example, if you aim to convey that such incidents are frequent and threatening, narrating a single, emotionally charged anecdote in the form of a visual, man versus shark, story proves more persuasive than inundating your audience with a multitude of statistics. In the realm of the availability bias, accessibility often prevails over accuracy. Ronald Reagan's impactful, "A Time for Choosing" speech made deliberate distinctions from the outset. He rejected the conventional left versus right political dichotomy, asserting, "There's only an up or down, up, man's old age dream, the ultimate in individual freedom consistent with law and order, or down to the ant-heap of totalitarianism." Reagan's strategic use of the contrast effect, presenting opposing concepts, contributed to the speech's potency. The contrast effect, a powerful cognitive bias, operates on the principle that we perceive differences more intensely when presented side by side. While opinions may vary on Reagan's statements, his adept utilization of the contrast effect throughout his political career is undeniable. To leverage the contrast effect, adopt a similar approach of highlighting opposing elements in your communication. For instance, juxtapose up against down, or the ultimate in individual freedom against the ant heap of totalitarianism. John F. Kennedy also employed this technique by contrasting easy and hard in his commitment to landing on the moon. Observing political debates often reveals the deliberate use of the contrast effect by different sides. Integral to this strategy is clearly outlining alternatives to your recommendation. Failure to acknowledge other options may lead your audience to perceive the information as biased and untrustworthy. Enumerating alternatives and demonstrating the superiority of your recommendation allows your audience to feel they have autonomy in drawing conclusions. When presented with limited alternatives, people may willingly embrace the proposed ultimate in individual freedom if the ant heap of totalitarianism is the only alternative. It is crucial to recognize that, like other communication strategies tapping into cognitive biases, the contrast effect can be used for both positive and negative purposes. Therefore, it is imperative that those seeking positive outcomes understand how to wield it for maximum benevolent effect.
If you find value in our content, we'd appreciate your support through likes, shares, and subscriptions. Your comments are not only our guiding star but also the foundation of our progress. Now, let's dive back into the review.
Consider being presented with two investment options. Option 1 guarantees a return of $900 with a 100% success rate, while Option 2 offers a return of $1,100 with a 90% success rate. Most individuals instinctively opt for Option 1, driven by a preference for scenarios with zero risk. This tendency, known as the zero-risk bias, leads people to favor situations with certainty, even if the potential gain is comparatively smaller. While this bias is common, individuals who prioritize expected monetary value, EMV, would recognize that the EMV for Option 2 is higher, $990, than Option 1, $900. Despite this, the zero-risk bias influences decision-making. A real-world example of the zero-risk bias is evident in products and services offering a 100% money-back guarantee. Customers, feeling they face no risk, often choose such providers over cheaper competitors without such assurances. The business, in turn, benefits by attracting more and higher-paying clients, even if the return rate is higher. If your message doesn't naturally align with a money-back guarantee, consider exploring alternative pledges that address the zero-risk bias. Focus on ways your audience can experience zero risk, even if an absolute guarantee is impractical. For example, if you've launched an ethical investment portfolio, emphasizing a 0% chance of transaction failure, minimal hold times, or investments in non-ethical businesses can activate the zero-risk bias without making unrealistic promises. Balancing your commitments is essential, but highlighting achievable assurances can enhance the appeal of your message. In 1962, John F. Kennedy delivered a memorable speech at Rice University before the historic moon landing. Notably, Kennedy's introductory remarks were filled with compliments and pleasantries about the university, the city, and the state. This strategic use of positive language aligns with the psychological phenomenon known as the halo effect. The halo effect occurs when we attribute additional positive qualities to a person or object based on an initial positive observation. It creates an imaginary halo around the subject, influencing our perceptions. Conversely, the reverse halo effect applies when we associate negative qualities with a person or object after an initial negative encounter, regardless of actual displayed characteristics. Understanding the halo effect emphasizes the importance of first impressions in shaping subsequent perceptions. Effective speakers leverage this phenomenon by ensuring their initial contact is impressive. You can apply this concept by considering contextual and direct inputs in your communication. Contextual inputs involve factors like the environment for meetings or the setting for video calls. For instance, arriving early to familiarize yourself with the venue at a conference can project confidence and competence. Direct inputs include the clarity of your voice, the openness of your body language, and your appearance. Strive for a tire slightly above average, avoiding extremes that may trigger the reverse halo effect. Taking inspiration from JFK, incorporate humility and respect into your choice of words. While you may not be aiming to put a man on the moon, acknowledging these psychological nuances can significantly impact the outcomes of your interactions. The origin of the phrase, rule of thumb, can be traced back to a rough measurement method during the Cold War, where people would use their thumbs to gauge their proximity to the radiation zone of an atomic bomb. If their extended arm with a thumbs-up gesture covered the mushroom cloud, they were considered, albeit tentatively, safe. Today, while the threat of atomic bombs has diminished, the concept of rules of thumb persists and influences how we navigate complex decisions. This reliance on mental shortcuts is explained by the cognitive bias known as attribute substitution. When faced with intricate and mentally demanding decisions, our brains tend to substitute the challenging question with a more manageable one. This simplified question allows us to conserve cognitive energy and make quicker decisions. Interestingly, this bias extends beyond personal decisions and influences our judgments of others. For instance, it is often easier to form an opinion about a person rather than evaluating the merit of their message. Highly effective communicators leverage attribute substitution in their strategies. One key implication is the importance of presenting a shared worldview to the audience. People are naturally drawn to those who reflect their thoughts and opinions, so understanding the audience's perspectives is crucial for a persuasive message. Another practical implication involves tying statements and oneself to evidence or trusted organizations. People often opt for cognitive shortcuts, quickly scanning for cited sources or connections to reputable institutions. By incorporating these elements into a message, communicators provide indicators of importance and accuracy, increasing the likelihood of the audience regarding the message positively. In conclusion, effective communicators grasp the principles of how humans naturally process information and tailor their speech accordingly. Mastery of the theoretical and tactical aspects of behavioral economics is accessible to anyone and can lead to significant influence. Cognitive biases such as the availability bias, contrast effect, zero-risk bias, halo effect, and attribute substitution are powerful tools that can be harnessed for positive impact. Even leveraging just one of these biases can set you and your message apart from the crowd, making your communication more compelling and persuasive. Understanding and applying these insights can elevate your ability to connect with and influence your audience. Welcome to one of the finest personal development book summary channels on the Internet. We're thrilled to have you join our amazing community that values growth and strives for improvement. Your support is instrumental in our channel's progress, and we deeply appreciate your engagement. In return, I commit to delivering consistent and valuable content, enriching you with knowledge and inspiring you to take meaningful action. Thank you for staying tuned and being a part of this journey towards continuous improvement.